Welcome to a fine show. We'll have some fun tonight. Oh, my friend Bruce, you better hold on tight, yeah. Gonna have a good time on a fine show tonight. Gonna laugh and sing, and everything's alright. Da 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 da. Yeah.
And welcome to a fine show. It is a wonderful night to do comedy and music and bring it to you. And this episode will be a chock full of talent from the comedy and entertainment world. My next guest is an amazing comedian who I've had the pleasure of working all over the country with over the years. Super happy to bring her here and hear about her early inspirations and her great stories of her comedic world. It is, without further ado, you've seen her on David Letterman and The Tonight Show and HBO. Her Showtime special entitled Taller on TV is still available. And you've seen her on America's Got Talent. Right now, she's on your phone. Please welcome Wendy Liebman.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey,
I'm
Wendy.
so happy for you. And I'm so excited. I'm on your first show. And I love your theme song.
Thank you.
That was my wedding song.
Wait a minute. Steve said he wrote that song. Hold on a second. I'm going to have a word with him. Well, it could be somebody's wedding song in the future. Maybe my next wedding song. You never know. You never know.
I've been married once.
You're married once, right?
Yes, I got married very late in life. I thought the something old thing at the wedding was me.
You have married the love of your life, Jeffrey. You guys have a wonderful relationship. It is inspiring to see that kind of love is available and possible. And
but I'm driving him crazy. He thinks I'm crazy during this pandemic. And I'm like, hey, I'm not the one who married me.
Right. I mean, and did you think it was just during the pandemic that he thought you were crazy?
Well, I think they need to change the wedding vows. In sickness and in health, is this the person you want to spend the pandemic with?
That's a good idea. We definitely need to upgrade it. It's changed everything. The pandemic has changed everything, but this is a time where the relationships, it's gonna make or break. You're gonna make it or break it with this pandemic.
I'm so pissed at him right now because he lost 8 pounds during the pandemic. And I was like, are you trying to get away from me a little bit at a time? And he was like, no, it's your cooking.
Yeah, see, you're still a bad cook, aren't you?
Yeah, even my dogs are like, I'm eating out.
Your dogs are calling DoorDash?
My dogs are, yeah, actually today they ate a squirrel. They brought it into the house.
I would actually love to have your dog or dogs come to my yard and eat all the squirrels they can find.
It's terrifying. Well, we live like in wildlife. We have coyotes. We've had snakes this summer. We've had a tarantula. We had the delivery guy from Instacart.
He's the wildest animal of all of them.
But I have somehow gained, well, not somehow, I've been eating my weight in Cheez-Its. So my sweatpants are too tight now.
Oh, man. Are you hoping that you'll be able to hit the stage live again? Are you excited about anything that we can look forward to? Will you be doing your live shows that you host in Studio City as soon as we get the clear from the governor?
Locally grown. Well, they've asked me to start it up again. But I personally am not comfortable going out yet. Like sure. I even wear a mask at home. Like my husband, Jeffrey, makes me wear a mask to bed of Jennifer Aniston. So I'm just making jokes for you on your first show. I'm so happy for you.
You're doing great. It's like eyes wide shut over there where you live. Very freakadelic over there. I wouldn't expect that. You guys seem so all-American. But you know what they say about the quiet ones. Wendy, the theme of our first episode here is inspiration. And we all, as a young child or young adult, saw a show, an actor, a performance, and it sort of triggered in our brain, I want to do that. And I wanted to know what your early inspirations were.
Well, I grew up watching Carol Burnett and Flip Wilson and Lily Tomlin and Cher. I'm not joking. I thought Cher was hilarious. And then as I got older,
she actually was. You're absolutely right.
I know.
On the specials that she did with Sunny, the variety shows, she was a comedian.
She was hilarious. And I've since gotten to meet Lily Tomlin, which is just blows my mind. But I used to imitate her. I don't do that in my act anymore, but I would imitate her characters for my father, and he would laugh. So I loved hearing my dad laugh. I still do. And I think that really inspired me to go into stand-up. Also, when I got older, I saw Stephen Wright on The Tonight Show, and I thought, this is the funniest person I've ever seen. And then I was at college then, and I remember taking a plane the next day to go home to New York. I'm never going to get on the plane again, actually, ever again. So those are old memories. But I was on a plane going home, and who walks on? I see this guy, and I'm like, I know that guy. I know him. And then I thought, oh, it's Art Garfunkel. But it was Stephen Wright, and I remember I was going to repeat his joke to him, one of his jokes to him, as he got out of the plane. But he never got off the plane. I don't know where he went. Maybe there was a door at the back, but
it might have been one of those Southwest rear exits that you didn't know about at that time.
Know.
So you started traveling yourself, and you learned to sit in the back of the plane and get off quick when you go to Burbank or Vegas back in the good old days.
We have to learn a lot doing stand-up, and this is one of the things we're learning is this Zoom stuff. But so Stephen Wright, Gary Shandling, Joan Rivers, and David Letterman, really. I see the picture of you and David behind you.
Yes, I will tell my inspiration story before the show's over. And I definitely was a young high school kid. I was a wise guy from Massachusetts like you. And I used to watch this young new show, David Letterman, Late Night with David Letterman, when it was the NBC version. And it was on at 12:30. I was in high school. And so not all high school kids in the 80s were staying up till 1:30 in the morning. I could not go to sleep until I watched the show. I just something connected. I had this girl I was crazy about, Sarah. I'll put her name out there. She knows who she is. And she was watching, I was watching Letterman. This was high school. And I'm high school. And I'm sitting on the couch watching Letterman with her. She was into it too. We were both into that sarcastic humor. And we were watching it for a few months. And one night I said, I think I want to do that. I want to be like Letterman. I want to do stand-up comedy. And, I'm like a high school junior or senior. And she goes, you should do it. You would be good. You should do it. She was the first, besides my family, your family's always supportive. She was the first person, especially being a woman that I was crazy about, that was like, go for it. She was like my Adrian to Rocky, She really was. And I'll always love her for that. And then I went out to LA and did all that. And then my story, which I'm not going to finish now, is that after all these years, last year, for the first time ever, I had a random, miraculous, magical run-in with David Letterman. And I will tell you what that was. Amazing. I told you. I saw you out for sushi one night, and I told you, and you were getting chills. And it was magical, and I'll continue on that later. So back to you, Wendy.
I think that was the last time I was out in public, when I ran into you at sushi.
You might be right. That was definitely pre quarantine life.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of positive things though. People are, are learning to adapt to interacting with humans more. Yes, technology. We need this technology to do the show, right? But the truth is, like, we're home with family more. More phone conversations, FaceTimes with loved ones and people. I have taken this time to do all the things. I made a list of all the things that I haven't done that I want to do, that I haven't had the time. Like, I signed up for mobile banking. I connected to electronic deposits for different things. I taught myself electronic applications for my financial business. I did all these things that I didn't have the time for. And actually my life is a lot more convenient now because of this. So there's a lot of positives. We're going to talk about the positives on this show that have come out of it. Wendy, tell us when life gets back to normal, where people can see you do your magic. I know Locally Grown Comedy, which is your brand, your awesome show at the Vitello's, famous Vitello's in Studio City, usually on a Tuesday night. That's been running for a while. Will that be back when you feel comfortable?
When and if, unless I do it online. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I agree with you. I've been reading more. I read People Magazine now from 6 feet away. And I haven't made bread yet. A lot of my friends are making this there. I have toasted a bagel.
Yeah.
But
I make everything but bread.
I've been homeschooling my inner child.
Oh, it's about time.
But yes, I've dyed my own hair.
Can't even tell.
I have I ride my exercise bicycle, and then when I do my Zoom comedy shows, then when it's over, I just go into the kitchen and eat. I don't have to fly somewhere.
Yeah,
so there are some positives to come out of this. And yes, the irony is you get closer with people, even though you can't really come face to face with them.
Before I let you go, a lot of young comedians watch these kinds of shows, and they like to get tips on the business. I know comedians come up to you all the time and ask you for tips or advice. How about this? I'll make it simple. Could you tell us one thing that you learned in your career that you would love to pass on to somebody new getting into the business, and one thing that a good positive thing, and also one thing that, like, you learned a hard lesson and you want to make sure that the person you care about don't do this because this is something that I wish I didn't do, or this is not the way I should go about it. So
I love that. I love that question. Okay. The good one is get on stage as much as humanly possible, because there's no replacing experience. It's just, you can think you're a great comedian, but unless you do it like a million times, then you need that experience. And the thing that I wish that somebody had told me early on is to try new material all the time, because otherwise you get stuck just trying to be great with the jokes that work. So
it's so easy to do our greatest hits. It's so easy to do our greatest hits. That's really good advice. I think all of us that have been doing a long time, the key to growing and the key to keeping the audience really excited is the new material, right? So when I see Billy Joel in concert, I want to see the greatest hits. But when the fans come to see comedians, they're like, "Oh, I know those jokes. Give me some new ones."
I know.
Nobody goes to Billy Joel concert and goes, "Yeah, I don't want to hear Piano Man. Let me hear some new stuff."
Springsteen's still playing Born to Run.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Born to Run again. Come on. Let me hear the new stuff.
You've got a friend.
Yeah. Let me hear something about 65 years old being married with a 12-year-old son, whatever your new life is. I don't know. So anyways, Wendy Liebman, it goes without saying that you were the first lady of the Laugh Pack. You are the first lady of a fine show. You are the first lady of comedy. And wow. Jeffrey is a lucky man. There's not a woman on this planet that is more wonderful than you. Thank you so much for doing the show.
And good luck with your show. I love it.
Appreciate you. Thanks. Oh, it's my pleasure to welcome a fine comedy panel for this next segment. And we have Lauren Francesca, Wendy Liebman, Ross the Boss, and Carlos Oscar. My goodness, what a panel, and so much experience. There's like 100 years of experience in the comedy world here. and millions of fans, I'd like to ask a couple questions that maybe nobody has asked you before. First of all, my question is this: when did you feel that you arrived? What was the moment in your career where you feel you arrived in show business for the first time? Lauren Francesca.
I think I arrived in show business for the first time when I was 13. My manager got me this audition for a yo-yo commercial, and I didn't know how to yo-yo, and it was feeling the rejection right away. I just walked through the doors and I'm like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
You knew that. You said, wait a minute, I get all excited, I get dressed, I drive over and I do this audition and I feel awful about it. And on the way home, you said, I have arrived. I need more of this.
Yes.
Wendy, how about you? I hope it's a much more positive experience.
I got to open for Bob Hope. It was probably 8 years into my career, and it was in front of 5,000 people. And that was just like a pinch me moment. I was like, yeah.
That is awesome.
It's cool.
And did you get a chance to meet him? Because I do know a funny story from you that I never forgot, that you opened up for Julio Iglesias for 2 weeks in Las Vegas and never met him.
This is true. And his audience didn't speak English. So.
I did the gig, about half spoke English and about half. But I actually have some funny Julio Iglesias stories that we could talk about before we go today. That is a very positive experience. Not quite. I did get
to meet Bob Hope too.
And
that was very cool.
And he gave you hope. Ross the Boss, you have been a producer. You have been a development of talent. You've been a cast. When you came out of Arizona, out of college, you come to Hollywood, you start booking comedians at the Improv. You go all the way up to become a television producer. What was the moment though in that journey that you felt, hey, I think I'm in show business for real?
Well, I'm going to go way back. I'm going to say 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. Ross the Boss is working the door at the Improv. Unbelievable, jammed every night, 3 shows sold out every night. We had unbelievable talent from George Carlin to Robert Klein to Richard. It was everybody in Hollywood was there. And I will never forget, I actually was like, people were paying me like hundreds of dollars to get inside the club. I was like a 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old, 17, I think. I just graduated. I was in high school, and it was like, it was unbelievable. I mean, I just knew like, wow, this show business is great. You can make like hundreds of dollars a night
as a doorman.
And the other cool thing, we used to have dance night, and I don't know if you remember this, and Marcus Allen and O.J. Simpson would come in every Monday night for dance night to pick up girls. And they loved me. Every time they saw me, they always gave me like 20, 50, $100. And it was great. I mean, the regulars would come in for dance night, and it was like a line out the door, and I was like the bouncer. It was
so if you're following the history of the Improv, being a doorman is a great entry into show business. You have Ross the Boss, who went from doorman to television producer for many, many years, and still to this day. You have Les Moonves.
Kevin Nealon was a bartender.
Les Moonves was a doorman, a bartender.
Shrippa was a doorman.
Who else?
Steve Shrippa.
That's right.
Bobby from The Sopranos.
Bobby Bacala from The Sopranos. But how about this? A guy that you and I knew, because he was the doorman when I was there, Alan Covert.
Yeah, but he's not.
Adam Sandler becomes roommates with him and ends up giving him this wonderful career as a actor and writer. So being a doorman might be the best, or doorwoman might be the best advice to give a young comic today.
No, it was Deborah Winger was a bartender at the Improv a long time ago. I mean,
Callie Corey, the screenwriter for Thelma and Louise, wasn't she a waitress at the Improv?
Yeah. Good memory. But my first that was probably my first memory, Bruce, is working the door. 1984 Olympics.
Wow. On to Carlos Oscar, who has who started
nothing. Anyway, go ahead.
Carlos, first let's start with this. When did you feel like hey, I'm in show business? Because
I know,
you didn't come from a show business family, or you were a military guy. You served our country.
Well, I was when I got the Air Force, but my dad played guitar in Puerto Rico, and he was part of a trio. So my dad was always life of the party. So I have that, that everybody was funny in my neighborhood in New York. But okay. But as far as like feeling I was in show business, I would get up at the Laugh Factory and I would always say that I had 20 minutes. I didn't. And I would just get off so early, and they go, "What happened?" "Oh, I didn't see." So I honestly, it sounds stupid, but when the first time I faked it, yo.
Oh my Lord.
The first time I made it to the light, like the red light came on and I did 20 minutes, I felt like, okay, now I can do this. I mean, that's when I felt like, okay, I would fake it. They would put me up and I would do like 10, but I would just hang out just to get time. But I felt like okay, I did it. That getting to that stupid light felt like finishing a fight. Like I made it to the last round. Ding. So to me, I felt like as far as like a highlight of my whole career, probably when I did the Apollo, but I would say
that's amazing.
Yeah, but probably like when I felt like, oh, I'm in show business was
you did the Apollo with Sinbad? Yeah. Was Sinbad the host?
No, I did the Apollo when they would bring in comics from all over, and when the crowd would get on you. So, but I knew enough that if the first joke killed, bam, we're good. So the first joke was like,
Please find that.
Oh, we have the clip.
I got to see that clip.
That. Yeah.
I got to see that clip. I want that clip.
All clean shaven. I was out of the Air Force. I was all clean shaven. I was like, straight.
Got to see you on the Apollo.
What they call the Regulation 3510. Anyway.
Got to see that clip. Okay. Second question for our comedy panel. Top 3 comedians of all time, in your opinion, or IMO, as they say online. Top 3 comedians of all time. And Lauren, you don't have to put me in the top 3 list. Take me out and put someone else in right now, because I really appreciate it, though. But what do you think? I mean, listen, you're a youngster. You're the young baby of the bunch here. So you might have a different point of view. That's why it's going to be interesting to hear who you think is the 3 best of all time.
I mean, it's so hard for me because I look at like I admire so many females. So I'm like, okay, Grace Allen, I loved her. I love her and George Burns are just their show was amazing. Like Lucille Ball, like old school comedy. I love watching older stuff. And then, I mean, Dave Chappelle, like currently, Tracy Morgan is amazing. All of my friends that I feel like I should mention right now, but I don't want to mention because then I don't want them to see this and say like you didn't.
No, you're good. You covered the list. You even have a backup. Tracy Morgan's the backup if any of the top 3 cannot make your list. I'm Tracy Morgan. I'm crazy. Great list. Wendy, let's go to your list. Top 3.
Stephen Wright, Paula Poundstone, and Gary Shandling.
Paula Poundstone went to Lincoln Sudbury High School, LS, right down the street from me in Framingham. Gary Shandling, I had the pleasure of meeting at the Comedy Magic Club in the green room, and went over his notes with him one night. And he was, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? That was definitely a fun moment. And I opened for Stephen Wright at the University of South Dakota. It was a homecoming gig, and I did 20 minutes. The job was to do 20 minutes, then bring up Stephen. This is what Stephen Wright did. And remember, for those that are watching the show that don't know, Stephen Wright did one-liners. Okay, so if I write a joke and it has a laugh or two, it's like a minute and a half. Stephen Wright writes a joke, it's 12 seconds. So he has to write more JPMs than anyone, jokes per minute. This guy did an hour 15 of one-liners.
Yeah.
Of one-liners, okay? Then there was an intermission. And then he did another hour. I brought him back on stage after intermission. He did 2 hours and 15 minutes of one-liners. It was insane.
That's a good memory.
It was, yeah. I mean, I'm like that. I'm an elephant. But it was
no.
insane.
I mean, he had to have a good memory to memorize.
Oh, I thought you were remarking on me recalling 1996 or whatever this was. It could have been earlier 90s, but it was. And by the way, backstage, I met him, and I was like, I know your brother. He's like, what brother? I go, the one that has a Texaco station down the Cape. He was like blown away. of anything that we talked about. He's like, I can't believe you met my brother. I said, yeah. I said, I was down the Cape in 85 and I was a comedy fan. I was in college and I went to the Texaco station. This guy looked like you. I said, hey, you look like Stephen Wright, the comedian. And he goes, that's my brother. And I go, really? And he goes, no, really, it's my brother. He was just all casual. And he goes, I'm funnier than him. That's what he said. And he goes, you know what? I believe you now. That's my brother. He thinks he's funnier than me. And he was so amazed by that. Anyways.
I have to say that the list, it's so unfair because I think as a comedian, there are so many people that I love, but those are the first. I mean, I also love Jake Johansson and Brian Kiley.
Of course. We could do a top 20 list of just the people that we could do the top. Yeah. We could do Jonathan Katz and Barry Katz, one of your favorite comedians.
No, not Barry Katz, but Kevin Meaney.
Of course. Rest in peace. I saw Kevin when I was in college in the 80s.
It's just not fair to ask three.
Well, that's it. I'm trying to make it because I'm trying to make it even.
You want to make it quick, so move on.
All right. Ross the Boss, top 3 comedians of all time, not including me or you.
Okay. So, Wendy, you're definitely in my top 20. I promise. As you know, I've been a fan ever since you won that competition in Boston.
Well, yeah, Bud discovered me.
So Ross the Boss, top 3.
Was that the Johnny Walker comedy competition?
Yeah.
I remember that.
So the first comic I ever produced on the Tonight Show was Phyllis Diller. So she's definitely in the top 3. Phyllis Diller was an innovator for women comedians, very funny, unbelievable legs. I got the honor to go to her house, hang out with her. I got spent a lot of time with her. I have a lot of memorabilia from her. She is definitely.
When you say you have memorabilia of Phyllis Diller, do you have like pantyhose?
I wish. No, okay. It's like books she signed, pictures.
Awesome. You mentioned the legs. I just want to know how far that relationship went.
Ask Wendy about her legs. I mean, Wendy met Phyllis before.
They were like a tall drink of lemonade.
I mean, amazing. I know Wendy's a big fan of hers.
Was she a dancer when she was younger? Before
I was once at her house, and she told everybody at the party, "Don't lock this bathroom from the inside because the lock is broken." And then an hour later, somebody got locked in, and it was Phyllis.
So Phyllis is 1, 2. Eddie Murphy, unbelievable, raw. All the concerts, all the times I've seen him live. I got to work with him on the Tonight Show. Total icon, very humble. He's definitely on my top 3 list. Eddie Murphy. Number 3, never seen this guy bomb ever. I've seen him on stage. I've never seen him bomb. I've seen him do a lot of drugs, but I've never seen him bomb. And it's Robin Williams. God rest his soul. But he, to me, unbelievable. No other comic is in the same level as Robin. He was just totally for me, like above everybody else. God rest in peace.
I was 17, 18 years old and I was an Eddie Murphy fan. I went to see Eddie Murphy in Atlantic City for his first concert. My dad got tickets. I went, I followed his career. I bumped into him at Coffee Bean the last couple of years and got to chat with him. But Eddie Murphy's career is to the point where my kids are now fans. That's amazing to me. All right, Carlos, sorry. Thank you for being patient. Top 3 list.
I mean, there's also comedy influences that we have that are just big. They may not be stand-up comedians, but I mean, I just have to mention, I would say Lucille Ball and Carol Burnett. And now as far as stand-up, even Jonathan Winters has to be in that mix. But as far as stand-ups, because he was a stand-up and he was on every night when I was a kid, was, Johnny Carson. I was like that 9-year-old that stayed up till 1 a.m. and nobody, I was a latchkey kid for a long, so I would watch Johnny Carson all the time. And personally, me, because of the background and whatnot, was Freddie Prinze, who was a big influence to me. And then, I can't really go beyond, Eddie Murphy as far as that raw energy on stage, that presence he had on stage, and his ability to just be so funny, just in any setting, is pretty incredible. That's someone who's just naturally gifted, almost like someone who could throw 100-mile-an-hour fastball. You just can't really teach that. They just can do it.
Well, I could tell you that the people from your list are, all icons. Johnny Carson could get a huge laugh from just a reaction.
Yeah.
Letterman was the same way. He could get a huge laugh without saying a word. just from his expression, because we knew them so well. They were like someone like an uncle when we were watching them for years and years and years and years. And I don't know if we have that now in that world, but I will recommend to the viewers, if you haven't seen the episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld hosting, of course, with Eddie Murphy as a guest, and the stuff that they stumble across. I mean, the fact that they both started comedy the same night at the same club, and both their names are misspelled on the list.
Yeah.
It's just one of the funny moments of that episode. But that was really cool. All right. Last question for this amazing panel. If you were going to be the star of your own documentary on Netflix about your life and your career, like Tiger King, if they were going to do the next Tiger King about you, Lauren or Wendy or Carlos or Ross, who would you cast to play you?
Oh, this is a hard one. I feel like the more interesting story would be like the story of my stalker that flew from Saudi Arabia and proposed and I never met. Like that would be like an interesting kind of story. And then
we're not talking about what part to cast Ross in. We want to know who would we cast as you.
As me? I mean, I would love like I don't know. I would love like a Charo figure to play me. I think that would be awesome. Like if Charo could play me, like. Like,
that's a great answer. I would actually like to see that script.
Coochie coochie coo.
Wendy, who do you see playing Wendy Liebman in the Comedian King documentary?
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh yeah.
But people tell me I look like Pam Dauber, but nobody knows.
Of course, Mindy from More Committee. Yes, right. You guys look like sisters.
So, or Tina Fey, but it's going to be David Spade.
You have much better hair. Much better real hair than Spade. Ross the Boss. I don't know who the heck would play Ross the Boss in.
When I had a goatee, I used to get stopped all the time when my hair was a little longer too. But it's Danny McBride, I would have to say.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Danny McBride.
Like it. Carlos.
Look, I gotta tell you, man. Let's be honest. Let's just be honest, okay? Because you have to go with who looks the most. So you have to go with Brad Pitt because we look so much alike. You know how many times I get stopped at the airport? Hey, Brad. I go, it's Carlos Oscar. Oh. So I mean, I have to default to him, unfortunately. But I'd rather have Todd Bridges actually play me, because we go a long way back.
Can I tell you what my choice would be, especially listening to your early influences in comedy too? I would cast Freddie Prinze Jr.
You know, I met him. He's the nicest guy. Bananas funny. Like, he's just a really good guy. No, he is. He's really funny. And you would coach
him to be funny to play you. That's what would happen.
Wow. You know what? Here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to be real on this. When I was, I called, this is for real, back in the day, you know, it was like Yellow Pages. I'm being straight up. You know how your name would be in the White Pages, right? So I was in Puerto Rico and I called Freddie Prince's house. He answered, to talk to his mom, because I knew, believe it or not. And he was Freddie Prinze he's a kid. He answered. I talked to him like before he even became an actor. I said, listen, your dad was a big influence on me, blah, blah. It was so random that you could actually look on a White Pages and get somebody's number, which doesn't seem like it's real, but that was really happened.
Wow.
Did you also stalk Lauren?
No,
Lauren was 5 years
that
old.
Was a crazy story, though. No, but I think of somebody. It's a documentary.
That's a great story.
It is. It's true, and I got to talk to him, and then I got to meet him years later when he was like, and he said, "Do you remember when I called? I was in Puerto Rico. I called you," and he goes, "I remember that call. He was just a kid, but anyway, he became a big star."
Amazing. What a fine panel. What a fine show. Once again, Wendy Liebman, Lauren Francesca, Ross the Boss, and Carlos Oscar. They're the way you can find them is right there on the screen, and check them out and follow them and see what's going on. And thanks all of you. We'll do this panel again soon. It was way too much fun. Lauren, it was so great having you on the panel. How can the fans, my fans, who aren't quite as large as your fans, but how can our fans find you and all the shows that you're doing?
Oh, wow. I mean, I live close to you, so if they know where you live, they can just,
No, we don't. We don't you don't
find
live close
there.
enough. You don't live close enough yet, but
I am all over social media. I Want My Lauren, or I'm in some movies that are on Netflix or Amazon if they want to watch any of my movies, which I appreciate 5 stars and a positive review.
awesome. And I really enjoy the show that you do with Brad Grunberg called How Did You Start?
How to Start.
How to Start. How to Start.
Yes, you were on it, and it was great. I heard about your start.
It was fun to be on the show. That was on Facebook.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I Want My Lauren on Facebook. Make
So
sure.
if you go to I Want My Lauren on Instagram or YouTube, you'll be able to find all these wonderful things that you're doing. I'm a big fan. I'm only 5'1", but I'm a big fan.
I also have to say,
Yeah.
like, sometimes people that have my name on the internet or like have a fake versions of me may like friend you. So like, if the person's asking you for money, it's probably not me.
All right, but what about the text that you sent me asking for Venmo? That wasn't you?
That was not me. So just letting you know. Just make sure it has like the check mark next to that.
Wow, so people are actually hacking into you and then trying to get your fans to give money. That's really crazy.
It's really creepy. It's really creepy. Brad hit me up. Somebody was hitting up Brad. He's like, "This isn't you." And it was like an Instagram that was obviously like just like I Want My Lauren with like a letter next to it, but it had all of my pictures. And it was like, "I really love you. I want to have a relationship." And then Brad like wrote this. He's like, "This isn't you, right?" And I'm like, no.
He knew it wasn't you when he saw that. He was just making sure. The 1%, just the 1% chance. Oh my goodness. Lauren, best wishes to Georgie, your wonderful dog, who's been just been a great little fighter, and continued success. And we look forward to a lot more laughter and fun, great things from you, Lauren Francesca.
Yes, thanks for having me on your show. It was really awesome. I loved hearing.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. See you soon.
All right,
yes,
bye.
You and Wendy should be doing a movie together.
I would love that.
Take care. My next guest is our regular correspondent that gives us the heat from the street in sports and entertainment. 3 words, folks. Here he is, Ross the Boss.
Hi, I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk sports with you, cowboy. Well, I'm excited. You're excited. Everyone's excited. I'm watching soccer right now. That's how desperate I am for sports. We're going to have baseball. We're going to have football. We're going to have basketball. We're going to have professional bowling. We're going to have every sport you can imagine in the next couple of months. It's going to be great. I'm excited. I even pulled up my my Golden State Championship ring I have. I even pulled this out of the safe. This is the Ryan Lochte gold medal he gave me.
Wow.
I'm going full out in sports right now, Bruce. It's crazy over here. I'm going nuts. But let's talk about the Washington Redskins. I don't know how much longer I'll be talking about the Washington Redskins. I'm friendly with Daniel Snyder. He called me. He wanted some advice. I gave it to him. I said, Daniel, when was the last time the Redskins won a playoff game? And he said, I don't know. When was it? They said 2005. When was the last time we won a Super Bowl? 1991. Who cares if you call it? I would want a new name anyway.
Yeah, change the name, change the luck.
Yeah, the Redskins are like, it's like being called the losers almost. Change the name, get rid of the logo.
Good advice.
Start something new. We can sell all new merch. We'll make a lot more money than the tired emblem you have. You know, it's not a big deal, Dan. Just sell it.
They should call themselves, since they're in Washington, call themselves the Washington Swamp.
What I told them to be called is the Skins.
The Washington Swamp.
Washington Skins. That's all. The Skins.
Potato skins? You can't do skins.
The Skins.
That's short for Redskins. It's still it's offensive.
Skins.
Change the name. There's plenty of animals that they're not using in football.
We could call them the politicians, the generals. We can figure something out.
The Washington Chipmunks. Anything to change the luck. I'm with you with that, Ross. New luck, new name, new luck.
I agree with you. I mean, I wish the Bengals would change their name because I'm a Bengal fan, as you know, and it's been disappointing the past 50 years.
They should be the Tiger Kings instead. Cincinnati Tiger Kings.
But I mean, people are making a big deal about this. I don't think it's a big deal. Just change the name. I mean, it's not sacred. It's not a big deal.
Before we go, Ross the Boss, entertainment. What shows are going to be happening? What have you heard? And could you tell us a quick story about a gentleman who is a legend in the business that you met, Carl Reiner?
So, as you know, I'm if you go to my Facebook, I have a lot of pictures of Carl. I've known Carl my whole life. I will tell you a Carl Reiner story that people really don't know. Like, he's lived at the same address, 714 Rodeo Drive, since 1963. And I even went trick-or-treating in his house. I had no idea who he was. So I actually worked on shows with him. I knew him. I've been to his house for I seen him work on his books there. You know, he was 96 years old. He's still working on books. I mean, it's crazy. So he lived on Beverly Hills, very, very expensive street. Every home is over $5 million. His next door neighbor is a doctor. He gets divorced. He loses everything. Then he's diagnosed with cancer. He can't afford to live where he lives. He has to sell his house.
His next door neighbor.
Next door neighbor. And he's lived with Carl like his whole life almost. They've been neighbors for like 40 years. And so he's an older guy. He's diagnosed with cancer. So he told Carl, I'm going to move. I have to sell my house. And he said, listen, I'm going to buy your house. I want you to be my neighbor forever. And pay me whatever you can. It's not a big deal. I'll buy your house from you, whatever you want. Just tell me how much. I'll write you a check. It's not a big deal. But I want you to stay there. So guy lived for 2 more years. He passed away. And Carl, and no one knows this, Carl had him basically living rent-free next door to him because he just liked the guy, you know, and they were friends.
Beautiful story.
And I mean, think about it. I mean, I'm sure he made money off the home after a few years because
I don't think he was thinking about that. I do think you're right. He's a mensch. He wanted to help his neighbor. And
I mean, I know you heard all the great stories about people giving money and people in hospitals and needing money and paying for everything, but you don't really hear those stories, you know. And that's the stuff kind of hits home, and it's nice to hear that. Another show.
And you know what? That's a unique Beverly Hills situation too. So that's really, you know, Beverly Hills neighbors usually don't even know each other. So
I agree. And really quick, I've been watching the show Hannah on Amazon Prime. Unbelievable. The new season just came out. I said I totally recommend your fans to watch the show. I love it.
Great. Always love the tips from you, Ross the Boss. You're usually spot on.
The boss, and I love talking sports with you.
Thanks, Ross the Boss, everybody. My next guest has been a comedian and performer for 30 years all over the world, literally, because he works on cruise ships. He's in comedy clubs. He is doing corporate events. The man is a very busy comedian most of the time. But obviously, when not watching comedy, he's a big baseball fan. He's the biggest Yankee fan I know. Now there's no baseball and there's no stand-up comedy. So I'm going to bring him on right now because he's dying for attention, and we're happy to have him. Comedian Carlos Oscar.
Yeah, we're all dying for attention. It is a strange time, but you know what? I tell you what, I'm burned out. I've seen like all the shows there is to watch, and you know, yeah, there's no baseball because I really would only watch baseball. I don't watch basketball or football. I only watch baseball. I used to watch boxing, but that's kind of anyway. But so I watched a lot of baseball, and that's not, you know, well, it's gonna happen at finally. But yeah, this whole shutdown was kind of, you know, we got to sort of you know, get closer to our families in a sense, and so I've done is I've like fixed things around the house that like I never would have. So I got to do things like that. It was kind of like
you fix like your relationship.
No, my girlfriend's still upset that I have a wife. She can't deal with it.
You say you fix things around the house. I just want to.
No, everything's good. I think it's been a long time.
Give me one thing you fixed around the house.
For today, I fixed the sprinklers. The other day, I landscaped this puppy like you wouldn't believe. I mean, there was
proud of you, man.
Yeah,
I'm out there. I'm out doing as much landscaping and gardening as I can. I always do it, but now I have more time to do it. So,
that's right. You're quite the green thumber, aren't you?
They call me the Midnight Gardener.
Yeah,
yes, they do.
Yeah, the Midnight Gardener. Wow.
Yeah. It sounds dirty, right? It sounds dirty, but I'm out there with the fruits and vegetables and roses.
But you know, we can come up with some material has come up out of this. I mean,
for sure.
I mean, we're in close quarters, and it's just insane, you know, to live be at home every day because we're so used to traveling as comedians. I would be out 33 weeks a year at least. And those are just the weeks. Sometimes it's a one-nighter, which turns out to be 3 nights, right? You got to fly there, you got to do the show, then you fly back the next day. So I would be out quite a bit. So this was a little anxious at first, but I'm good. I'm looking forward to getting back.
You just gave me an idea, Carlos, for a question that we weren't planning or prepared for. But I know that you live with your wife and 2 daughters, and everyone's home now.
Yeah.
Home early from college. Here's the question. Are you ready? What have you learned about your wife or daughters during this time, all this time home with them, that you didn't know about them before? Even if it's a little trivial thing.
I don't think it's trivial. I didn't know how much my oldest is really into cooking. She's like a chef.
That's great.
Like insane. Mm-hmm. Like stuff that you would only see at a 5-star restaurant. She takes the time. She made bread she had to wait till the yeast, was forming, and it's insane. My youngest.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
She is a catch. This one needs to be married off to a prince, because I know she works in television already.
Yeah, she works at HBO. She graduated from
HBO.
NYU.
She's beautiful because of your beautiful wife. And she's a chef.
Yeah, she's a chef, man.
She's ready to be married off.
Yo, Ratatouille on this one. And
highest bidder.
And so then
highest bidder who has 20 cattle.
Exactly. The dowry, as they say.
The dowry, right.
The dowry. And then my youngest is
and what is her Instagram for the eligible bachelors out there? I'm just kidding. She would kill both of us.
Did you know there's like a million different? This is what I'm from my youngest now. My youngest is like crazy popular. Like she'll get like 10,000 views on a TikTok. She's really funny, right? Wow. My youngest, what I've learned about my youngest. She has like 1 billion dudes that try to DM the direct
DM, and it's up my DM.
So she lets me see them because she's such a like, what is this? But there's all these dating apps that I don't know if you know this. Girls, my daughters, they go on them. They're laughing right now. They look at they just laughing at the dudes
and the profiles and what they say and what they do.
It's like a second ago they stopped watching TV. They're not watching any Hulu. They're literally laughing their heads off, going one by one over the guy. So I've learned that is entertainment, these dating apps.
That is hilarious. And they're probably coming across some of your comedian friends like, oh my God, that's Dad's friend.
So here's the other one. And then my wife, because she's just used to me always being on the road. I mean, always, right? She was the only child too. So she's kind of used to her own space. But now that I'm always home, so it's like, it's different. I'm coming off the road
way a little bit.
I'm out of the rhythm. So if I'm not up and at 'em doing something, she's like, she gets like, irked if I'm not doing something. So I learned that, not being out on the road and just being here is, she can't just, if I'm watching a game, but I've been on the road.
What
for
game are you watching now?
No, I wasn't, but I'm saying, I've been watching all games. But if I'm saying, before
match
this
game.
Yeah, match game. So, but if I'd be watching something, if I was on the road, cool, he has his downtime now. But now that I'm not on the road, she's like, do something. So
well, listen, you're not sitting home doing nothing. I want to talk about your new show that's on Facebook. The Q, Carlos Q.
Yeah, and with Triple Q, it was it's Quarantine Carlos Comedy, but
it's Carlos with a Q,
with all Qs, but because we're coming out of this world event,
yes,
and we will be, because this is not, I hate the term new normal, because this is not new normal. This is new abnormal. I'm supposed to be able to shake your hand.
How about temporary? It's a temporary abnormal, and we got to get through it like we get through everything else.
So I switched the name up, so it's just Carlos, Oscar, and Friends, and so it's gonna be it's more one-on-one like what we're doing right now between me and you. So it's gonna be a little bit more fun, and I get to do more, and I'm doing more sketch comedy in it. And what's funny is that in this new world of the virtual shows, which I really didn't think was going to be a thing, is actually taking hold. I've been asked to do many closed circuit virtual corporate shows or faith-based shows. So that's becoming a thing, which I really didn't think was going to be a thing, but the tech is there now.
Yeah, and the audiences are demanding it. They want to be entertained. That hasn't changed. Carlos Oscar Comedy is the Facebook page and the Instagram page. It's great to see you, old friend. You're a great stand-up and a great guy, and it's an honor to have you on my show. Carlos Oscar, everybody.
Thank you so much.
My next guest has been a network executive and executive producer for over 2 decades. Television and film, these are two of the worlds where he has worked. He's currently executive producing scripts and shows for VH1 and MTV and working on some exciting projects for the film world. My next guest is Juba Saeed.
What's up, Bruce?
Hey, Juba. Always great to see you. Love talking show business with you. We originally met in the 90s on a show called Vibe.
Yeah.
And I know that was not your first entry into this business. Please tell us a little bit about your journey.
No, it wasn't my first job here, but it was my first job in Los Angeles, actually. I moved out to LA for Vibe, and that was the name of the show you're referring to. But and it was also a new genre for me because I'm a weird I got a bunch of weird credits from news and daytime talk to, and then that Vibe was late night talk, game shows, talk shows. As you mentioned earlier, now it's movies, TV movies primarily, and then did a whole stint for 12 years in reality. So my career is pretty eclectic, unusual, I'd say. But I got, I would say that I give a lot of credit to the former president of NBC, Bob Wright. He was a parent at my sister's. My sister was in school at boarding school, and he was a parent there, and I didn't know who he was. Turns out he was the president of NBC. So he got me into the Page program immediately. I got to jump the line. There was like probably a 2-year wait. But when you know the president, that's what's up. You go right in, jump right ahead. But I didn't tell anybody, I probably would have chewed out.
And did he come from General Electric originally? Was he General Electric? And
I don't, yes, because Jack Welch did hire him. You remember Jack Welch?
Yeah.
I think he actually came from CBS, but I don't remember. That was, that was over 25 years ago. Actually, it was over 30 years ago. So, so I don't remember if he came from General Electric, but I know that Jack Welch hired him, and he might have been in the GE family. So,
and he got you in the Page program in New York.
Yes, he got me into New York at NBC. I gave tours, and we used to have to seat people for Conan. So it was for years. It was the first year of Conan, and I don't know if you guys remember, but Conan was not very funny in those first couple of years. And we had to get people off the street to come and tell them about this exciting new show that they should come and watch. And the faces that we had to deal with after the show, because it was tragic.
Well, much respect to what Conan became. He's a wonderful host and talent now, but everyone when they start is green. It was a whole new thing, and you were there in the very beginning when he was still learning how to be a talk show host.
Absolutely. He was learning how to do it, learning like what style they wanted to go with. It was very awkward, and no one had done what he'd done. I think Letterman was also very odd for mainstream, which is why he was on so late, but he was trying to take it to the next level, and we just couldn't figure him out. But unfortunately, NBC stuck with him, and now, we realize the genius that is Conan and the comedy that he was. We none of us could see it then. I mean, he was a great guy. It was one of the nicer sets to work on, but
I've had the pleasure of working with Brian Kiley and some of the other comedians that have written for Conan. Great group of people. So tell us, from being a Page there, how'd you make your way to Los Angeles?
So before that, when I was in college, I was an intern at Letterman, one of your favorite guys. So amazing. I used to work for a guy. He was a researcher. His name was Daniel Kellison, and so I did my stint one summer, grinded it out because I was living in Jersey. Had to make, I had no money, no job, but just was working as an intern that summer. And fast forward to me winding up in news and getting that Page program opportunity. And then after the Page program was over, now it's time to get a real job. But what am I going to do? And trying to figure that out. Wound up working in daytime talk, but realizing it's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in entertainment. I didn't want to be in daytime talk. I didn't want to be in news, which is where I did 3 years in news at NBC. And I made a freaking a cold call. Dude, I was reading the Hollywood Reporter, and I saw this show called Vibe, and it was produced by Quincy Jones and David Salzman, and I didn't know much about it. All I knew was that they had hired Daniel Kellison as executive producer. I'm like, I remember that dude. Will he remember me?
There you go.
I just called the office cold, and I got lucky because his assistant was in either the bathroom or lunch or something. So he wound up answering the phone, and I was like, Daniel, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm Juba Saeed. He's like, well, you're the only Juba I've ever met. So yeah, I remember you. I said, I'm not an intern anymore. I'm a producer. And I read about the show, and I said, I'd like to come out and show you what I can do. He's like,
that's a great story. I love it because it's inspiring to the aspiring artists and producers out there. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Don't be afraid to look things up and read the trades, see what's going on. That you were proactive yes, you could say it was a lucky break, but we all know that luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, of course.
Absolutely.
And that's a perfect story for that. I want to ask you go back a little bit before this time in your life, you know, on the show, with this cast that we've had today, we're talking about what inspired or who inspired us to make us want to be in the business. Many of the people in front of the camera spoke on that. What inspired you to want to be in entertainment?
Yeah, I don't think it was one thing. My entire life since I was a little kid, I was supposed to be a doctor. And everything I did in my life was geared towards that, from the time I was in middle school to high school and even my first 2 years of college. And then when I started getting my grades back at Notre Dame, I had never seen a C before. I'd never seen a C. And I started getting a lot of C's, and I was like, I don't want to be a fucking C doctor, right? Like, I don't want to be that guy that everybody like looks up and like, oh yeah, he did graduate medical, but he got C's. So I started to tap in, like, what is it that I was really passionate about? If it wasn't this, if I was passionate about medicine, if I was passionate about being pre-med, I wouldn't be getting C's. What was I striving at? And I remember something that my father used to yell at me about. I used to get lectured on. I used to watch a lot of TV as a kid. I watched so much of it that's what I would get in trouble for. More than doing anything. I didn't do drugs, wasn't doing other things. You know, I liked to party, but I wasn't like, I made it home in time. I never broke curfew. I was a good kid except for TV. I was sneaking watching everything from sports to all the sitcoms and dramas. And so I said, there must be something to this TV thing. And I wound up changing my major at the end of sophomore year into film and television. And I have not dropped the ball since. So that was sort of my entry level. And then I knew it was for me because I was a star doing it, whether I was in front of the camera, behind the camera, producing it, directing it, writing scripts. It all just came easily to me in the early stages. I'm not saying.
Well, yeah, confidence is important in every field, and you had the confidence developing, and the more opportunities you got to do the jobs that were brought before you, you got good at them, and that's why over 2 decades you have survived and thrived in this business. Speaking of TV,
I do wish I had the balls that you had, and a lot of people on this panel had. Was the one thing I didn't do that I wish I had done was force myself to be more in front of the camera.
It's never too late. It's never too late.
Well, yeah, I mean, I still look, 45, I guess.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. It's never too late. All right, Juba, a couple quick questions that I asked on the panel, and I'd love for you to dive in on these real quick. Okay, ready?
Okay, real quick.
Top 3 comedians of all time.
It's so funny. At our age, I think it's changed over the years. It always was, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor. And that third spot was always for me sort of like a Robin Williams or George Carlin. But now, if I'm doing my list today, it would be and I base it on how I feel after watching it. I would say Eddie Murphy, Dave Chappelle has moved into the second slot for me, and I argue that he might have the best slot right now. He might have the number 1 slot. And the person that I think will surprise a lot of people, because is actually, I'm going to go with Kevin Hart because of how he's affected the business of it. He's a funny guy, no doubt. I don't think he's the funniest of funny, but I think he's put together a package that is undeniable. He's selling out stadiums. He's doing things that no comedian's ever done. And I can't take him off the top 3 list because of that. So he's my number 3 now.
Never underestimate charisma and personality.
Absolutely.
Kevin Hart has exploded his brand of comedy with his charisma and personality. I agree with you. I don't think it's been done.
I always have a good time watching him, and I'll watch anything he's in.
Okay, Juba, what was the moment in your career when you were starting out, moving a little bit? What was the moment when you kind of went home and went, I'm in show business? I think I'm actually really in show business now.
I think for me, it was when I first moved to LA and worked on Vibe, and just the star power on that show. It was a late night talk show, as you know, because you were on it. And
I worked on Vibe. Yeah. Chris Spencer was the host. I worked on the pilot. Just, full disclosure, I met That's
when we
Juba.
First met, obviously. We
first met on Vibe.
And I remember,
up and coming producer, and I was up and coming actor, writer, host, blah blah blah. And it was pretty amazing to go to work. And that day came Jay-Z or Puff Daddy or Usher,
absolutely,
or Will Smith or Jennifer Lopez or Mariah Carey, and then you went home. That was
for me. It was that, and you know who it was? When I did the segment on John Travolta. So he was already a big star, A-lister. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. I'm in the room. I'm totally shit. I'm shitting my pants. I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to sit in here. I got to pre-interview him and
Amazing.
go through this stuff. And he couldn't have been nicer. And then
it's so weird. It's so weird.
Every
time they do an impression of John Travolta, they all go, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Yes, that's him in Welcome Back, Kotter.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
But
Mr. God.
For me, it was like after that, there wasn't a party I didn't get invited to. There wasn't like I was on the in crowd at that moment. And I remember our executive producer had a pool party, and that was my first Hollywood pool party. So there were hot girls with topless in the hot tub, and that was like, oh my God, I made it.
Can't do that anymore. Can't do that anymore. The good old days. Ladies and gentlemen, our good friend, Juba Saeed. Thank you, Juba.
Thank you for having me, man. Good luck. And the Bruce is loose, everybody. Let's see this thing take off.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So I do want to give you the punchline to the story about David Letterman that I started during the interview with Wendy Liebman. I was a huge Letterman fan in high school, going into college. I didn't go to bed until I watched Late Night with David Letterman. As a young man in Massachusetts, going to college, I was on the wrestling team. I didn't think I'd ever really go to Hollywood and do comedy, but as I got through college, that is what happened. And I wanted to go to Hollywood and do comedy, and I wanted to be like Letterman. I really looked up to Letterman and Jerry Seinfeld, and an unknown Jay Leno at the time, who was a guest on Letterman. So he really inspired me to go out to Hollywood and pursue comedy, stand-up comedy. And years later, all these journeys I went on in my career, I never got the opportunity to ever meet David Letterman because he was always in New York, and then he retired and now he's in Connecticut. Well, last year, John Witherspoon passed away, legendary actor and comedian who I worked with on the Wayans Brothers. I was a writer on the Wayans Brothers, and John Witherspoon played Pops, Shauna Marlin's father. So I went to the memorial service, and it was beautiful, and it was star-studded, and it was an amazing band on stage. Anyways, I look over, and I see David Letterman, and he's there to pay his respects. He was very close with John. As I was going down towards the stage where we're all going to take a picture, there was a little break, and I saw some comedians to the left that called me over to say hi. As I walked over in the hallway, there's about 3 comedians and David Letterman. And there was a little conversation, and then the comedian said, Dave, can I get a selfie? And Letterman was in very good spirits. It was a very emotional day. It was a very, there's a lot of camaraderie with all the comedians from all the different generations. And he's like, sure. And he was definitely a little more friendly, I guess, than his reputation. I saw an opportunity. So they were taking selfies. And before I was going to step up there, I said to David Letterman, I have a great Letterman story for you. And he kind of looked at me, and then I got up to him. And as I started to talk to him, it was kind of a magical slow motion moment because the other comedians had already gotten their pictures. And it was just a comedian friend of mine behind me that had just taken my phone to take a picture. And it was just me and David Letterman in a hallway. And everybody, like thousands of people, are inside getting ready in a few minutes to go on stage and take this picture. So I said, Dave, it's 1984. I'm a freshman in college. One of my roommates comes in and says, I have 4 tickets to Radio City Music Hall, Letterman Anniversary Show special. Who's in? We're like, when is it? Tonight. We're like, how the hell are we going to get there? We'll rent a car. We don't have any money. We scrap together $20 between the 4 of us. And we pile into this rent-a-car, blow off class, drive to New York. I'm telling Letterman this story. We drive to New York. We're waiting in line outside for hours. We get in. The show is incredible. And as I'm telling him the show, I realized that he kind of shifted into the moment of being back in that time and doing that show. But I'm giving him the fans' perspective. And I'm telling him who was in the band, and you had Ashford and Simpson singing backup. You had Billy Joel on the keyboards with Paul. You had Tom Scott on the horns. And he's looking at me, and he's like reliving it, and he's starting to smile. And I told him all this exciting stuff, and I probably sounded like an excited, 20-year-old kid like I was at the time. And he looks at me, he grabs my arm, and he says, that was really neat. Thank you for sharing that. And he grabbed my arm. And I looked at him, and I could see that he was touched. And I said, Dave, I'm 53 years old. And I'll never forget that for the rest of my life. And I said, how about that picture? And he said, yeah. And then we took this picture of him smiling, which is very rare. That's me and David Letterman. Pre-COVID. He has the COVID beard before everybody. And it was a great moment for me personally to come full circle and tell one of the guys that inspired me to go into comedy how much he meant to me. So that's my little story. What a great way to tie up our first episode of A Fine Show. Well, as most of you know, I am originally and proudly from Massachusetts. I grew up in Framingham, a big town with a lot of people with big dreams. It's 20 miles west of Boston. Next to Framingham is Hopkinton, Mass., where the Boston Marathon begins. Legendary in New England. This next guest is also legendary from my high school. It was Framingham North High and Route 9. There's a lot of bars and pubs and lounges and musical places. And this guy, Steve Spector, and his band Hot Acoustics have been performing greatly and for over 2 decades. And I got the pleasure of seeing him when I was back east. In addition, he started a world tour on Facebook on his page. Every week he's making live performances, and it really has brightened up a lot of people, brightened their spirits and souls during this time in our world. So check out his Facebook page because you can see the Facebook World Tour. And right now, I want to introduce our first and very special musical guest from Hopkinton, Mass., Steve Spector.
So in the spirit of my hometown, Hopkinton, which is a marathon city, Thunder Road, Bruce Springsteen, I play a lot of Bruce Springsteen tunes, but this is one of my favorites. My wife is Donna, she's asleep right now because it's late here on the East Coast, but I'm sure she can probably hear it upstairs. I learned this song.
If she says my name while she's sleeping, she's probably talking about Springsteen, so don't come after me, Steve.
Yeah, I'll have to verify that, man. And thanks for the heads up. That's a little disturbing. So anyway. So Thunder Road is a long song. I know we're tight on time, so I'm going to play a little piece of it that I hope helps to take you home here for the.
Awesome.
Thanks again for having me in the first show. I'm like, wow, I'm flattered, man. But thank you. So here you go.
Believe me, the pleasure's ours. Thank you.
Well, I got this guitar and I learned how to make it talk. And my car's out back if we're ready to take that long walk. From your front porch to my front seat, the door's open but the ride, it ain't free. And I know you're lonely, words that I ain't spoken. Tonight we'll be free, all the promises have been broken. There'll be ghosts in the eyes of all the boys you sent away. Or did Dusty Beach Road in the skeleton frames of burned out Chevrolets to scream your name the night in the street? Graduation gown, eyes and rags at their feet. But low and cool before dawn, you hear the engines roaring on. But when you get to the porch, they're gone like the wind. Mary climbing. We're town for losers, we're pulling out here to win.
Awesome.